Yeah. So I want you to picture this. You're at a networking event. You're accomplished, experienced, with decades of wisdom. Yet somehow you feel invisible. The conversations are surface level, the connections feel a little empty, and you walk away thinking, was that even worth my time? That disconnect isn't just frustrating, it's a signal that you've outgrown traditional networking. You're not starting from scratch, you see, you're starting from experience, and that changes everything. Welcome to our conversation today, the ultimate guide to best networking tips for women over 50. I'm Dr. Geneva, for those of you I haven't had the chance to meet yet. And like many of you, I know exactly what it feels like to suddenly wonder if you've become invisible in rooms where you once felt valued. When I transitioned from nonprofit leadership to the business world in my 60s, I felt that really disorienting sense of, am I starting over? For months, for example, I struggled with something that should have been simple, introducing myself. The words just wouldn't come right. I couldn't figure out what I should say. My title had changed. My context had shifted. The identity that I'd built over decades didn't quite fit anymore, or so I thought. The breakthrough came when I reached back to what I had learned as a young professional starting out at United Way. And that was about that genuine networking isn't about taking, it's about giving. And then when I added that to the decades of experience that I had gained over the years, it made me understand something even more deeper, more deeper, more deep, deeper, deeper about networking. And that was, it's about value. And so it's not just what you do, but the difference you make. So today, when someone asks, well, what do you do? I say, I help high achieving women over 50 design their next chapter with confidence using insights from my own reinvention journey. Simple, clear, and focused on the transformation and value proposition. And that's what I want for you too. The ability to walk into any room and connect from a place of confidence and clarity, not because you're clinging to who you were, but because you're embracing who you're becoming. And today we're tackling something I hear all the time. I used to know how to connect. Now I feel like I'm speaking a different language. And so here's what you're going to walk away with today. First, you're going to learn how to introduce yourself powerfully. Even if your title has switched, your job has changed, or your role is in transition. Second, I'll show you how to replace draining small talk with what I call smart talk that builds real connection. And third, you'll discover exactly how to follow up with confidence so conversations actually lead somewhere. So today's session is packed with advice and strategies and tips. And I'm also going to be sharing a little something about how I'm evolving the way I show up and serve this community. So stay with me. You'll want to hear what's next. Now, networking isn't about working the room like you did 20 years ago. You hear me, sisters out there over 50, 60, in your 70s? Mm-mm. It's about creating connections that reflect who you are now and who you're becoming, because your network shouldn't just know your name, it should know your value. And that's the deciding difference in how we network over 50. So before I dive into some of the solutions, I want to be real clear about what's happening when networking feels harder after 50. Okay. So this isn't just about needing new techniques. Okay. It's really about navigating three specific challenges I see among accomplished, high achieving women who are over 50. First, there's what I call the visibility whiplash. And that's that jarring shift from being a recognized authority in your field to suddenly feeling oddly invisible as your role or identity changes. Have any of you experienced that? One day you're the expert everyone be calling. The next, you're wondering if you've somehow disappeared. I know that happened to me when I went from the nonprofit, highly visible community leader and stepped into the business world being an entrepreneur. My phone was not ringing off the hook like it used to. It just wasn't. And it's a jarring. That's why I call it a whiplash. It's a jarring um, kind of situation that you really don't expect. But that's why I'm here now, so that I can explain to you, let you understand what's happening when you're in your 50s or 60s and you're changing careers, or your role is shifting, or you're taking on a new identity. And then there's the authenticity gap, okay, where traditional networking advice somehow feels hollow or performative, like you're performing. We coming through our careers, we heard all about there was a small talk and the elevator pitches that worked once. They now leave you feeling that like you're playing a part instead of showing up as yourself. Mhm. And then also what's happening when you're networking after 50 is there's this need for purpose recalibration, because you're not looking to build connections that reinforce who you've been. You need people who understand and support where you're heading next. So these aren't just frustrations that I've identified, they're really the signals that you've outgrown the old networking playbook. And that's exactly why we need a whole new approach and understanding of networking. And that's why I'm going to start with, I always like to start here. I'm going to start with a mindset shift. Okay. That you need to do. Because before you change what you do in networking, you must change how you see networking itself, your perspective on it. Okay. So let's jump into the mind shift. You got to understand the biggest shift that's so important to understand when you're networking and you're in your 50s, 60s, and beyond is that you're not starting from scratch, you're starting from experience. So if networking feels harder than it used to be, Take a deep breath. It's not your imagination. It's not that you're doing something wrong. The old way of connecting doesn't fit who you are anymore. Back then, you were trying to get your foot in the door. Now you're standing at a different threshold, asking a deeper question when you go to them events or when you're thinking about meeting certain people. You ask yourself now, is this even worth my time? Because you realize that your time is valuable and the perspective shifts. That's what happens when you get into midlife. Your priorities shift, your energy is precious. And what you want from your connections is something um, meaningful and aligned with who you've become. I was at a leadership event not long ago, and a woman came up to me after my talk, and she said, I used to be someone everyone called when they needed something. Now I feel like I've disappeared. Mhm. She hadn't disappeared. And I told her that. She had just outgrown the network she'd built for an earlier version of herself. But she was still using the same old habits, showing up, making small talk, hoping something would click. And it's just not effective anymore. And it's exhausting. Okay. And I'll as I teach about how networking has changed when you get into midlife, oftentimes women will, in particular, will say to me, well, Dr. Geneva, I know we talk about networking and in professional settings, but this is also happening in my personal relationships. What's happening to me in various relationships. And this is true. And I'm going to be talking more and more about that aspect of not calling it just networking, but really relationship building, both professionally and personally. But stay tuned. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But let's talk about these mind shifts. I got 3 of them for you. Mind shift number 1. You don't need more people. You need the right people. So it's not about casting a wide net anymore. It's about really fishing with intention. If we're going to use that net. So, you know how when you fish, you cast that net out. It's not about that. You got to fish with intention um, these days with networking and start asking deeper questions like, who understands the chapter I'm writing now? Not just the book I already published. Okay. In other words, who understands where I'm going and what I want to become and what I'm becoming, not what I was. Questions like, who energizes me after we talk rather than depleting me? Who sees possibilities for me that I might not even see for myself? Who challenges me to grow rather than keeping me comfortable? These questions change everything. And they're not questions that you asked yourself when you was in your 20s and 30s, but they're questions that mean everything now. And these questions change everything because when you're clear about who you're looking for, who you want to connect with, you recognize them when they show up. So you're not networking to collect business cards or build an impressive LinkedIn count. You're curating connections that matter with people who get where you're headed and not just where you've been. And that shift, it feels like finally breathing some fresh air after being in a stuffy room, because that's what this midlife reinvention and transformation is all about. You're breathing fresh air. So that's mind shift number one. Mind shift number two that you need to do for new approaches to networking after 50 is to recognize that you're not chasing connections, you're curating them. Okay, so let's talk about that word curate so we're all on the same page. To curate means to be thoughtful, selective, to choose what belongs in your space based on what matters now. It's like being in a museum. They just don't hang up in the museum everything they have. They choose a story and they choose pieces that tell that story because the story that's being told matters more than the volume of pieces. And so they curate in a museum. And that's what you get to do now with your network. You don't have to meet everyone. You just need to connect with the right ones. So before any event, a practical tip, you can ask yourself, well, what do I want from this? And of course, the thing that always matters, what can I offer? So in other words, you want to be intentional. You want to ask, well, what do I need? And what can I offer? And it shifts the whole experience because you go in clear-headed, not scattered. Mindset shift number three, when you're in your 50s, 60s, and beyond, and are networking. And this is probably the biggest shift for us in this stage of life. You got to realize you are the asset. Okay? So let's drop this idea. You have to prove something. You don't. Already done the proving. You've built, you've led, you've learned, you've reinvented, you've changed, you've done all the things, and it shows. So I want you to take 10 seconds right now. Yeah, I mean it. While we're on this live, just take 10 seconds. And I want you to write down one thing you've achieved or learned in the past 5 years that you're proud of. Just one thing. And this one thing, something that represents who you've become. Okay? Takes 10 seconds and do it right now, please. And once you write it down, I want you to look at it because that's your asset. And that's what makes you magnetic in any room. Believe it. So when you walk into the room, I want you to remember you're not just another name tag. They give you them name tag. You're not another name tag. You're the room changer. You don't have to say the most. You just have to show up with clarity and knowing who you are and your assets. And that makes you magnetic. Now, all of this that we've talked about, these mindsets are the foundation of what I call smart talk. And I developed this guide for you. And grab it, get it, if you want to go deeper into this. But it's the smart talk system. And these mindset shifts that we need to make, this system helps you make them. And it's really a first step toward building a network that reflects your next chapter, not your past one. And so when you shift your mindset from meeting everyone to the right ones, from just small talking to curating, from proving to owning your value, everything changes. It really does. You stop wasting time and you start building something that reflects who you truly are and who you're becoming. This is the essence of networking skills that are important for you. This mindset sets that foundation. Again, if you have comments or questions, please leave them in the chat. Because I'm going to do a Q&A when I finish teaching this, okay? Because I want to continue to drop these gems for you. I'm hoping this is valuable. Please let me know. I want to move to, since I've talked about smart talk, because that's what I want you to get into in your 50s and your 60s and beyond. When we talk about that small talk, and a lot of us don't like the small talk chit chat. It's okay. Listen, it serves us and it's all right. But it's also like skimming the surface of a lake. It's calm, but shallow. And smart talk, what I'm suggesting to you, we move into in our mid-50s, midlife, and 50s and 60s and beyond, when we're in midlife. Smart talk is diving beneath the surface, where you really discover depth and clarity and treasures you didn't know were there. So, now that we've talked about mindset, and I hope you've shifted or will be doing some shifting about how you're thinking about networking, let's get into some of the hows. And this is the part where I see many brilliant women get stuck. Not because they don't know what to say, but because they're trapped in conversations that never go deeper than the weather. How's the weather? You know what I'm talking about. You know the feeling. You prepare, you get yourself all cute, you show up looking polished, you smile, and you nod at all the right moments. And then you drive home and you ask yourself, what did I do? Why did I feel so empty? Why didn't anything move forward for me? But let me tell you, it's not you. You haven't lost your touch. It's that the approach you've been using was designed for a younger version of yourself. One with different goals and a different kind of experience. Okay? Younger version. When I started my career with United Way, networking wasn't an optional skill. I mean, it was what we had to do. It was how we had to do our work. We got judged on it. We got evaluated on it, etc. Because in the work that I did, we had to establish relations with everyone and to help solve community problems and build partnerships. Well, building relationships was a part of our work plan. We learned to be very intentional about it, the right things to say and do. And I had to build real relationships across sectors and worlds and neighborhoods that rarely intersected, from grassroots leaders to city officials to corporate partners. And one day I'd be sitting on folding chairs in the church basement. The next day I'd be in a high-class polished boardroom table. And throughout it all, I discovered something that never left me. People don't really connect with credentials. They really connect with shared values and with someone who truly listens. But you don't realize a lot of that younger. You don't. But as I went through my career, that truth helped me earn appointments, build trust, and get called in when decisions mattered. And that's what's so beautiful, because we can realize the value, the wisdom, and experience that we bring. All of that authenticity, that wisdom, that experience works better even now at this stage in life. So if your role or title has changed, if you're changing careers or you're building something new, I know that introducing yourself can feel awkward. The moment someone says, that famous line, "So what do you do?" that can suddenly feel like, uh-oh, a minefield rather than a real opportunity. But here's the truth. A strong introduction doesn't come from a title. It comes from knowing the value you bring. And so in midlife, that's where I want you to start with. So strategy number one is to start with the right introduction. Um, and this is particularly for those of you out there who have the concern about, I don't know how to describe what I do anymore. Okay. And, so when we're asked that, maybe we think we're standing on the edge of the cliff and your role might have changed. Your title doesn't actually capture what you're doing now. And I've been there. It's a mental scrambling. And you don't know if you should mention your old title. Do you explain to people the transition you're going through? Do you feel like you're sounding confident enough? Well, here's the breakthrough. Again, the introduction you make in midlife has little and less to do with your job title and everything to do with the difference you make. And this is different. It's a strategy that I want you to test out and try this framework. So I help, and then fill in the blank, whoever you specifically serve or you work with. Two, and then there's the result that they get. Are you with me with this? This is what you're going to fill out. I help who you serve. Two, the results you'll get by using and whatever your unique approach or experience is. So I've got a couple of examples that you can use. I help women in midlife who feel stuck design their next chapter with confidence and purpose. I create brilliant jewelry pieces that help women celebrate their major life transitions with symbols that tell their unique stories. Again, do you understand the what we're trying to do here? Because we're talking about, you're not talking about a job title, a job change, or explaining that, but you're bringing the value. Here's another one. I guide established business owners through graceful succession planning so their legacy continues even when they choose to step back. So you can fill in the blanks, but do you see what we're trying to do here? And this framework works whether you're offering services, you're creating products, you're guiding strategic transitions, you're in the corporate world, the nonprofit world, wherever. Okay? Because what you're talking about is really the value you bring. And that's the most significant difference in when you're introducing yourself for when you're going through a new role or change or identity shift in midlife, and what it is that you're doing, because it really is about the difference you're trying to create. And you don't want it to be uh, just a memorized pitch. It's not that. It's really showing your value. And it's something different. But trust is more memorable than I'm such and such and I lead. I'm the president of such and such, or I'm such and I'm the director of such. Great. Okay. That is what we did when we were younger. But today, we can really talk about the value we bring and the transformation. So I want you to think about it, because when people hear that, something shifts. They don't just hear what you do, they see who you are and why it matters. It's memorable. It really is. And trust, it's magnetic in a room full of hollow business card exchanges. Okay. So if nothing else, give it a try and you'll stand out, because you'll probably be the only one doing it anyway. Okay. Strategy number 2, turn small talk into smart talk. So let's be honest, most small talk feels like, oh, you're wading in the kiddie pool when you're ready for the deep end. Okay. And what do you do? Where are you from? Now it's fine. I'm not knocking that at all. Um, but it's not what we need to do only as accomplished women in midlife. So instead of staying on the surface, I really want you to try questions that invite people to share what actually matters. So here are some smart talk questions that really can spark some genuine connection for you. So I want to, let me see. I was just looking to see if I had the slide to show you these questions. Okay, yeah, we do. Okay, right. Okay. All right. What are you working on right now that lights you up? This question helps people reveal their true passions, not just their job title. So this is something you're at an event, you go up to someone and you ask them, hey, Joe, how you been? Yeah. Okay, yeah, what you been, somebody said, what you been doing? Said, listen, what are you working on right now that lights you up? A different kind of question, okay? Another question, what's something in your work or life that most people don't understand, but you wish they did? Again, you're having conversation with someone and ask this question, because see, this is going to invite them to share wisdom that often goes unheard. And people like to talk about themselves. Another question, what kind of support or connections would make the biggest difference for you right now? It's something to ask at a networking event or when you first meet someone. And this lets you discover how you might actually help them. By asking this question, what kind of support or help do you need that's going to make a difference for you right now? And as they're talking, of course, you're listening. Okay. And this will give you all kinds of clues on what can what you can help them for. Another question, what's shifted for you in the past few years that's changed how you see things? Okay. These are conversation starters. This isn't as weather. Okay. This is what I call smart talk. And this acknowledges that change is real and it happens, and you're inviting that person to reflect on that and share that. Okay. And then another question, one of my favorites, and of course you can adjust these, of course, as you want to, but I want you to get the idea of these. But this one is, what feels most meaningful to you in this season of life? Okay. And see, a question like that makes everyone kind of like on the same plane. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's on the same plane because it bypasses whatever title or role each of you have and really gets into sharing values. What you doing? What feels so meaningful? There's a lot going on in life. What's meaningful for you in this season of your life? Asking someone a question like that. These questions work because they invite the whole person into the conversation, not just their professional persona. And these questions signal, I see you as more than what you do. I'm interested in what matters to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, as midlife women, these are the kinds of conversation starters that we should be doing. They're deeper, they're not skimming the surface, they're not shallow. They're especially powerful for us because they honor um, experience, they acknowledge transitions, and they create space for authentically sharing that goes beyond surface level. And when we're in midlife, we're ready for that. That's where we need to be. Okay. And so I hope you can appreciate the strategies I'm, leaving with you so far. And I've been thinking a lot about how I deliver these different kinds of strategies. And after years, I've been going live like this every Wednesday, 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm going to be shifting into a new rhythm, one that kind of brings this kind of insight and these strategies that I've just laid out in some different kinds of formats that I hope you'll like. So I'm going to tell you more about that later, but I just want you to know the change is coming and it's good. So strategy number 3, and this is an important one, and a lot of the women I work with will say this to me. But strategy number 3 is to know what to say when you're nervous. Okay. This is part of that smart talk strategy, smart talk system. And again, I put all of this in a guide and you can grab it. There's a QR code comments linked in the comments, but it takes you through all of this. And this strategy that we're talking about now solves the problem of I feel awkward starting conversations, especially when I don't know anyone. So let's talk about the moment we all know too well when you're standing alone at an event, pretending, you be pretending to check your phone while you're secretly wondering if you should just call it a night and go home. Okay, we all been there. Here's the truth that might surprise you. Even the most seasoned professionals feel that flutter of uncertainty when you're at events, the moment of, do I really belong here? Will anyone talk to me? And I believe that we always talk about, you should have the confidence to walk into the room, to own it, etc. Well, I'm not sure that it's just about confidence. I really think it's preparation. I do. And so I believe having a few warm, genuine openers that can transform those awkward moments into connections. And I just feel that you can do that. And you see, and what you do is you remember them and you practice them so that they flow out your mouth naturally. And here's a couple. You can say, hi, I don't think we've met. I'm your name. I'm Dr. Geneva. What brought you here today? Simple, warm. It immediately creates common ground without feeling forced. I don't think we've met yet. What brings you here today? Okay. Rather than, what do you think about the weather? It's just something different and kind of unexpected. Okay. But it's warm and it's simple. Now, sometimes there's a group, and which can feel intimidating to go up to the group, but try this one. This conversation sounds interesting. Would you mind if I join you? I'm Dr. Geneva, and I'm curious about, and then whatever it was that you overheard. Okay. So I want you to get this. So there's a group conversation going on. You picked up a little something, something as you walk by, or you're standing there. You could be standing there. You hear something. Walk up to the group. Introduce yourself. Ooh, this sounds interesting. Do you mind if I join? Introduce yourself, and you're curious about whatever it is. The beautiful thing about this is most people really do feel okay, kind of relieved if someone comes in and breaks the ice for them, or introduce themselves. That's okay. And particularly if people are standing alone, or maybe standing together, not having much conversation, and listen, if somebody that you go up to and they are not receptive to you, and they don't respond warmly, move on. That's not rejection. It's just redirection for you. You just move on to the next lane. Okay? It's okay. Trust. If someone doesn't respond to you with that kind of, here I am, love to hear, I'm curious about, who you are and what brought you here, and you don't have a warm response, trust, they aren't your person. And that's great information for you. Keep moving towards who you were meant to be and who you were meant to meet. Okay? So I want you to think about it. And if you had an event tomorrow and someone asks what you do, what would you want them to remember about you? I don't think it's your title or your company, but really the essence of your value and who you are now. So this is what makes smart talk so different from networking advice. It really doesn't land. It really starts with the clarity about your value, not your title or history. And really, this whole smart talk system gives you the questions that invite real conversation, not just small talk. And if you have questions or comments about this, please leave them in the chat. And also with the small talk system, it gives you authentic ways to handle those moments of uncertainty. So again, this isn't becoming someone you're not. It's about being the most charming person in the room, because that's who you are. And that's exactly who you are. A woman with wisdom, insight, and value to share. And you just making it easy for people to connect with you. And that's the magic of the Smart Talk system that I've developed and I'm talking about now, and also is in the guide, and you can get it. And it works so good for us in this season of life because it's authentic instead of performing. Okay, so I want to say something too about what happens after the conversation, because clearly that's where the real magic lives. And here's what I've learned after years of working with high achieving women like you. We put so much energy into showing up, what we say in the moment, how we look, and all of this is good now. But when we drive home, set our purse down, kick off our shoes, the connection kind of starts to fade like a sunset. You've been there, right? You met someone, the conversation flows, you think this could be something real, and then nothing happens. That business card sits in your drawer. The LinkedIn contact stays dormant. The potential just withers. And now this isn't because you lack follow through. It's because no one has really taught us the art of turning those moments into momentum. Okay? So let's change that right now. Okay? So strategy number 1, follow up with intention. I hear a lot from folk who say one of the biggest things is, and they be whispering, I don't want to seem pushy. I don't want to bother them. Now, I want you to hear me on this. Follow up isn't about pushing, it's really about honoring what you felt, what you promised, what you talked about in the moment of connection. It says, our conversation mattered to me. I heard you. I'd like to continue this connection, this thread between us. So I want you to think of your initial conversation like lighting a spark on a cold evening. Following up is simply adding the wood, the kindling that turns that spark into a warm, steady flame. Because without it, if you don't add the kindling or the wood, even the brightest spark will eventually go cold. So think about it that way. Get this, I don't want to bother people. I'm being pushy. Put that out of your mind. Besides, for us as women in our 50s and 60s, we shouldn't be thinking about that anyway. Okay? That we're too pushy or we too this. No, we all that there needs to be. Okay? So you can say things like, it was great connecting with you at the event. I really appreciated our conversation about, and then, here's the resource I talked about, or here's the article I mentioned. I'd love to hear more about whatever you all were talking about when the timing feels right. It's a simple follow-up message that you can give. It's warm, it's specific, and it's low pressure. You're not asking for anything, you're adding value. Okay. And that script and many other scripts are in my Smart Talk guide. And all you have to do is just go copy and paste them. Okay. Strategy number 2, map the network you need now. Now, this is such a common challenge, especially at this stage of life. Many of the contacts in your phone are people who made perfect sense probably 5 years ago. But you've evolved. Your vision has expanded and your network needs to evolve too. Okay? It needs to evolve with you. Imagine you're going somewhere and you're designing a map, putting together a road. You're going on a road trip and you're designing your map for your next road trip or adventure. Your goals are the destinations, imagine, and the people who help you there are the landmarks along the way. Some of the landmarks might still be relevant, but you need to add new ones that align with where you're heading now. Here's a simple way to check. Ask yourself, who do I need in my circle now? What kind of insight or support or opportunity am I looking for? Where do those people spend their time that I'm looking to help me? This is about just being intentional, not just showing up everywhere, but showing up for what matters. So I want you to do a quick network audit. Look at the last 5 people you've connected with. Are they aligned with your next move or are they holding you back? And then strategy number 3 is to create a simple follow-up system. And this will help you with, I meet people, but I don't stay in touch. And you don't need anything complicated. You just need a way to track. That could be a notebook, a spreadsheet, or a digital note in your phone. What matters is consistency. Write it down. Just write it down and then set a reminder to check in down the road. Put it on your calendar. Let me check in with this person in 2 weeks. But why does that matter? Because people remember when you remember them. And that's something that you really do need to do and to remember to talk about it with yourself. And a 30-second note that you take the time to put down in your phone, that could turn into an opportunity 6 months from now. So please do that. And this is the magic when we turn pleasant conversations into real relationships. So Hey, this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. The tips. Your networking these days is really like that quilt. Each connection is a patch that adds color and strength and warmth to your life story. We did not think about this in our 20s and 30s. We don't think about networking like that. But today you can. And the more thoughtful you are in stitching your quilt together, the more it reflects who you are, where you're headed, and gives you the support and the resources that you need. All right. So, again, let's remember you don't need a whole bunch of people, you need the right people. It's not about a perfect elevator pitch. You need clarity about the value you bring. You don't need more small talk. You need questions, real questions that open doors to real connections. And you don't need to chase opportunities. You need to follow up with intention and care. This is the kind of networking that doesn't drain your energy. And that's what we need these days. It multiplies it. And this is what I'm thinking. So if you're nodding and saying, yeah, this teaching today is exactly what I need, I want you to go get the Smart Talk Success System. Inside, you're going to find word for word scripts that you can adapt, like the ones we went over, you can use tomorrow for introductions, for follow-ups, for those awkward moments, a simple framework to organize and nurture your connections without the overwhelm, and strategies that you can use. You, that woman with wisdom and experience, and so much to offer. So the link is here for you. There's a QR code as well. Clear path forward if you're ready to build those connections that actually reflect who you've become. So I mentioned to you, I wanted to share something exciting. Over the years, I've gone live every Wednesday. Over the years, it's been 3 years. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m., rain or shine. And you've shown up week after week. I love y'all. And lately, I've been hearing something from many of you. You said, Dr. Geneva, we love your energy, we love your strategies, but we need more of it in different formats and in less time. So starting this month, I'm shifting gears. I'm still showing up, still bringing the energy, but now with some new formats designed to meet you with where you are. You'll see more short, high impact videos, behind the scenes glimpses, and these focus actionable strategies, plus the tools and products that support how I live, lead, and stay vibrant. So many people have asked me for this. Dr. Geneva, what do you use to keep your skin cool? Dr. Geneva, where do you travel? What are your systems? What tools do you use? What kind of advice can I get for this specific problem? And so that's what I'm going to be focusing more and more on. I'll continue to share my insights through my newsletter and deeper content, because teaching, especially around mindset and leadership, is the core of what I do. That's not changing. What's evolving is how I deliver it. And one new expression of this new chapter is something I've started called Glow with Geneva. It's a space where I share some of the lifestyle and reinvention tools that support the women I serve. But the heart of this shift is still the same: helping high achieving women over 50 design that next chapter with confidence, clarity, and purpose. So I hope you'll join me on this journey. And we'll see you soon. And again, in different formats. And I love all of you. I have getting the signal from my producer that we are out of time. And I see we've got a bunch of questions. And you know what? Oh, I see one of my cousins is on. Hey, oh my goodness, I would love to stay and just talk with everyone, but our time is up. But stay tuned. Exciting, more terrific things are coming, all for you. Shorter formats. Join me on YouTube. Some live in events, in purpose, and lots of products and tools. Glow with Geneva. Hey, see y'all soon. Thank you. Love you.